Hey guys, let's talk some Seth Rollins here for a second because Seth has been making the news lately. Not just because of his match with Baron Corbin at Stomping Grounds, which, despite the rest of the pay-per-view kind of being, you know, decent, his main event match with Baron was not well received. Mostly because people are getting sick and tired of seeing Baron in the main event. But there were some other things that got Seth in the news as well. And no, it's not his relationship with Becky either. It's the fact that Seth Rollins went on record recently on Twitter, social media, and through audio interviews and interviews with Sports Illustrated and such, and stated that WWE has the best wrestling on the planet. Now, you can only imagine a lot of people's reactions. A lot of people were making a joke about it. Many people were, like I said, they were making a joke about it. They were laughing at it. They were laughing at the statement. They were making parodies of the statement. They were sarcastically quoting and retweeting it. Yeah, Seth saying that about WWE did not sit well with a lot of fans because to a lot of fans, and even some insiders, but mostly hardcore casual fans, WWE has anything but. I mean, yes, they have a very talented roster all the way around across all 3, 4, 5 brands, but with the exception of 3 of those brands, the 2 main brands that should be focusing on having the best wrestling don't. But yet, Seth Rollins comes out and says it does. Now, recently, one fan basically retweeted to Seth and said, dial it down. In fact, if I can pull it up, I'll show you. Say it right here. The fan basically said, and I quote on Twitter, it said, Seth, I love you, but seriously, okay, this is what the fan said. The fan said, Seth, I love you, but seriously, dude, dial it down a notch. Now you might wonder what he means. Well, if I can bring it up. This is what the guy responded to. This was the tweet that Seth put out. Well, one of them. This was a tweet that Seth put out 2 days ago. Seth Rollins said it. This is what he put. And I quote, doubling down. Best pro wrestling on the planet. See that cruiserweight triple threat? Oh, yes. See that cruiserweight triple threat? And that's just one night. One match amongst the many. Find anyone else alive who does what I do as well as I do it as often as I do it. You can't. So yeah, he basically is doubling down on his statement of saying WWE is the best pro wrestling on the planet by saying that, as he puts it, by asking, everybody if they saw that triple threat cruiserweight championship match. And look, we're not saying that the 205 Cruiserweight Championship match wasn't good. What fans seem to, I guess, debate or try to argue or try to open Seth's eyes about is it's not the fact that NXT and 205 Live and NXT UK and some members of the main roster are not some of the best wrestlers or are not allowed to have some of the best matches. It's that the overall product needs to improve. That's what they're trying to get across to Seth. Like, look, we're not denying you guys don't have the best wrestling if it's done right, if the right people behind it allow it to be. But you see, what Seth Rollins is doing is not just being a company guy. He's basically doing what very few WWE superstars are allowed to do. He's speaking his mind. He's basically saying, and I quote, well, let me read it for yourself. This is what he said in a tweet. In fact, I even have it up here. Okay, like I said, this one person responded to that tweet by saying, "Seth, I love you, but seriously, dude, dial it down a notch." But then, like I said, this is what Seth's response was yesterday. And this is what he said, and I quote, when he responded to this fan. Because like I said, the fan basically said, "Seth, I love you, but seriously, dude, dial it down a notch." And this was in response to Seth doubling down on his acknowledgement that WWE has the best wrestling on the planet by basically saying that asking if you saw the Cruiserweight Triple Threat as an example. So in response to the fan saying, "Seth, I love you, but seriously, dude, dial it down a notch," this is what Seth's response was, and I quote, "Nah, dog, let me dial it up. I've sat back and watched idiots with no clue talk poorly about the place I've dedicated my life to every hour of every day." And he capitalizes all those words. "The level I perform at on constant is untouchable. I'm to let them know, or time to let them know." So basically, when he says that, and he basically mentions that he sat back and watched idiots with no clue talk poorly about the place he's dedicated his life to, that's something that not everybody gets a chance, especially in a top position, gets a chance to do. Even if it's online, through interviews or whatever. Because what he's saying is basically what a lot of other people are saying, but this is coming from one of the top champions, if not the top champion in the company saying that, look, unless you know what goes on here, you don't have a right to say, hey, that it's not the best wrestling because you don't know. You're not behind the scenes. You're not going out there and busting your butt at house shows. So, the question is, does Seth Rollins have a point? Some will come out and say that he's being brainwashed, he's drank the Kool-Aid, he's not jugged out the whole gallon or two, and he's just a kiss-up now, a corporate kiss-up that's basically lying through his teeth, and he knows the truth is WWE is not the best. There are people that feel that way. Now, some may argue that, well, Seth works at WWE, and Seth knows from experience what goes on behind there, and they'll be in agreement with him and say, look, maybe he's right. Maybe they do have the best wrestling on the planet, and what we're seeing is not exactly what could be the best wrestling on the planet because they're not giving a chance to really shine. You know, maybe there are certain matches that get restricted because of time. We don't know. You know, there will be people that will agree with Seth defending WWE. And there will be some that, like I said, feel Seth is just saying that because he's become a sellout. He's a corporate guy. And those that look at it indifferently or may even side with Seth will be like, well, all you guys are just AEW or hardcore indie New Japan fans that just want the same stuff you see in those promotions on WWE. You know, so it's kind of, the biggest question is Seth Rollins right? I mean, everybody has a right to their opinion, and if they work at a company like WWE, there is a good shot that they do know a little bit more than we do. They know what goes on back and forth. But there are fans that have become so accustomed to wanting to see some of the best wrestling, and they know WWE has a peripheral of stars on its roster that can deliver that kind of wrestling. And at times, like with Stomping Grounds, for example, for a majority of it, showcase that if given the opportunity and given less restraints, they could do so. Basically, they're saying that, hey, if you could do that just one night, why can't you do that every night? Why can't you do that with every Raw, every SmackDown? Why can't you do that? Why can't you do what this company does on a constant basis? Or why can't you do what this brand of yours does on a constant basis? That's all they're asking is why. Why can't you just do it? Why can't you just do what they do and be done with it? And you know what? Maybe we won't crap on you. Who knows? But here's the thing. Seth, he's the Universal Champ. He's one of the top guys. And for him to have the ability to come out on social media and in interviews and say, look, you guys don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going on. You don't work for this company, so you don't really have the right to say it's not the best wrestling because you don't know from experience. Yes, you have an opinion to say it's not the best wrestling, but unless you experience yourself, unless you work here yourself, unless you see it for yourself, you don't have a clue. You basically don't have a clue. So, depending on how you feel about Seth Rollins and his statements about WWE having the best wrestling on the planet, and him coming out and saying that he's sick and tired of fans, bastardizing the company he works with and puts his heart, soul, and sweat and tears and blood into every night and day as their champion or one of their top guys. Depending on how you feel about his statements and everything, whether you feel he's just a sellout right now because they're treating him and Becky well and he's the top champ, or you just feel he's been brainwashed or whatever and he's just lying through his teeth, however you might feel about it, Seth, like all of us, has a right to his opinion. And we can't argue with that. All he's doing is just giving his opinion on a lot of people like us that sit at home on our keyboards or go on our phones and basically tweet out or Facebook or Instagram or talk on YouTube or whatever, or Twitch, how we really feel about WWE when we don't really have a clue of what really goes on or what it really could be about. Again, people will point out that, now people will say that, people will agree with Seth in some way, that saying, yeah, you guys do have the best wrestling, but you need to show it on a constant basis, not just once or twice a year. And this is all because of the fact that, from what someone like Seth can notice, is fans like this, people like this, have been programmed to like what they see from places like Impact, Ring of Honor, AEW, New Japan, PWG, you name it. They've been programmed to expect that kind of stuff more so from WWE than anybody else. That, hey, not only do we expect to see it from these guys, but we expect to see it more so from you, WWE. So, look, I know I rambled a little bit, but the thing is Seth, but in the end, Seth is giving his opinions on how he feels about folks that give their opinions and give their opinions for something that they don't know, anything about unless they're there behind the scenes, unless they're there competing in the ring on a daily basis. So, I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you think about Seth's comments about, him being sick and tired of people, having no clue, talk poorly about WWE, that. What do you guys think? Do you think he has a point? Do you think maybe we need to just not talk about WWE unless, here's the thing, honestly, do you think Seth has a point? I mean, I think he's just, what I look at here is he's just giving his opinion. It's like with me working at my job. People can blast my job all they want and say bad things about it, but unless they know what it's like to work for a corporation like Walmart, like I do, a store like Walmart, like I do, then they don't have a clue. It's the same thing with what Seth is saying here. It's like if you don't know what it's like to work for a company like WWE and what really goes in the process to put one of the best wrestling products in the world together, then you don't have, then obviously if you don't know what it takes, then you shouldn't be crapping on it or something like that. But what do you guys think? Do you think Seth has a point? Or do you think Seth is brainwashed? Or do you think a lot of people, or do you think maybe the people that just say that, or just laugh about Seth doubling down and saying WWE has the best wrestling on the planet, do you think maybe they're just diehard indie fans that just want to see the same kind of stuff they see on the indies and all these other promotions like AEW, New Japan, and Impact, and Ring of Honor, and PWG? Do you think it's because they want, as well as maybe within WWE itself, like NXT, NXT UK, and 205 Live, do you think maybe it's because they expect to see that same stuff on Raw and SmackDown on a constant basis? What do you guys think? What are you guys' thoughts on Seth, basically saying he's sick and tired of people that don't have a clue blasting the place he loves, as well as doubling down on the fact that WWE is the best wrestling on the planet? Let me know what you think down below. Comment if you like. I know I rambled a little bit here, but let me know what you all think, and I'll talk to y'all later.